Okay, I'm gonna talk about my miscarriage. I've been watching a lot of like YouTube videos on teen pregnancy and all that. I'm gonna try to make it sweet, short, and simple. Basically, I was 17 when I got pregnant. I went to the doctors and found out. It freaked me out like really bad. I was crying. I thought it was a dream. When I went to go tell my boyfriend, he didn't really have a reaction at all. He was just sitting there, just, he comforted me because I started crying again. It was never the thought of, oh, I need to have an abortion, or, oh, I need to go figure out like who to give my baby to or whatever. It was more of the fact of, oh my god, my parents are gonna kill me. They didn't know I was dating this guy. My mom knew about him. Like, I had talked about him. I was like, oh yeah, like this guy, he's cute or whatever, but he's 26 and I'm 17, so it's not gonna happen for a while. Sorry. Well, I told her like 2 weeks later. No, it wasn't 2 weeks later. I told her like a week later, actually. And it was kind of really stressful because I had to worry about them, and also on top of that, I was trying to graduate high school early, which I accomplished, so that took off a lot of stress. But then I was like, okay, I have to tell my parents. So I told my mom, and it was like we were sitting in a car, and I have 4 younger siblings, so it's really hard to get her alone. And I was like, this is the time I have to do it because she's in a good mood. There's nobody else around us. There's just me and her in a car. So I was just sitting there, and finally I was just like, Mom, I have to tell you something. And she looked over and she's like, you're pregnant. And I just was like, yeah. And she was like, you're kidding. And I'm like, no, I'm actually not. And she was like, with who? And I was like, Modest. And she's like, Sierra, because she knew how old he was. And I was like, yeah. And she's like, have you told him? And I was like, no. I just kind of played like the stupid card, like, no, I haven't really told him, I just wanted to keep it a secret. I was afraid that like he would get in trouble or something, because I really didn't know how my parents would react. She was like, okay. I mean, she wasn't happy, she wasn't mad, she was just kind of like disappointed, I guess. She's like, okay, well, I still want you to go to college. And I was like, I know. And she was like, you need to tell your dad after Christmas. And I said, okay, because she didn't want the little kids to like have a sucky Christmas, because we didn't know how he was going to react. So I waited till after Christmas, and by this time, like, okay, with my period and the doctor, my period was not normal in any in any kind of way. I had a period in August, and then I had a period in November. So I was like, okay, maybe it's just gonna come every couple months. Sometimes I would bleed. Sometimes, like, before that, I would bleed every 2 weeks. Or, I mean, my period is just ridiculous. So, yeah. So after Christmas, I told my dad. I told him buy a car. I put a car in his truck, and I made sure he was like 30 minutes away from me. And I called him, and I was like, you need to look in your truck. I have a note for you. He's like, okay. So he read the card, and he was like, I actually let my dad and Modest meet each other on Christmas, so that way my dad can kind of get the idea of who he is. Like, he's not some creeper dude. He's not like a nasty, he's not like a child molester, whatever people think, So he had already met him, and then my dad, like, the first thing my dad said was, you know, that's statutory rape. And I was like, crap, like, this is gonna get bad, this is gonna be a whole legal situation. And I was like, Dad, you know I lied to him about my age. Like, he thought I was 18, and, you know, he's like, okay. So we talked for a little bit, and we were talking more about, like, what I was gonna do, and he was just like, okay, well, I love you, and, we're gonna get through this. And, like, just after that, it was just complete, it was just amazing. Like, I was so happy after that. I only knew I was pregnant for about a month, and I didn't feel tired or anything. I did feel nauseous all the time. During that time, I had lost 10 pounds, and I craved spicy stuff all the time. So that was, like, the only really, like, weird thing with me. So I made a doctor's appointment on January 9th, and I went to the doctor's. I got an ultrasound. My mom and my sister were there, and my boyfriend was running late, so he didn't get to see the ultrasound. But she gave me, like, a little picture of the baby. Everybody that we had already told was like, oh my gosh, it's a girl, we all think it's a girl, we all think it's a girl. So in my head, it's a girl. So we went to go talk to the actual doctor after the ultrasound. She said, okay, so when was your last period? And I told her. She said, have you bled any? I said, no. And she was like, okay, well, you had a miscarriage. And I'm like, what? She's like, and I was like, no, I haven't, because I have the picture right here of the baby. She said, okay, well, let me rephrase it. You're going to have a miscarriage. And I'm like, and I'm just, like, bawling. Like, nobody ever wants to hear something like that. That's just, like, the worst thing ever. So I went the next week, and we made sure that there wasn't a heartbeat, and we discussed if I was going to have the miscarriage naturally or have a D&C. Well, my mom and my boyfriend encouraged me to get a D&C because they just wanted to make sure, like, everything was out, and they wanted to make sure I wasn't going to get like an infection or whatever. For me, I wanted to get the D&C because I didn't want to see anything come out of me. Like, I didn't know what I was going to see. I didn't want nothing. So 2 weeks later, I had the surgery. So I was about 3 months pregnant. And the thing that sucks about that is I still felt nauseous. My boobs still hurt. I was still craving crap like crazy. I still had to pee all the time. I don't even know why. Like, it was just so bad, and it was so miserable for me because I knew the baby was not alive, and I still had all this crap happening to me, and I honestly don't care about it. Like, if I'm sick or peeing all the time, whatever, it's all worth it once I get this little precious little gift afterwards. Like, I really don't care. But it was completely different, and also I felt like people would think that I was faking it because I started telling people that the baby wasn't gonna make it, or didn't make it, I guess you can say. So it was like a completely different story for me. It really, really, really sucked, like, really bad. It was really close to my birthday by that time. My birthday is in February, and, like, even with me graduating early, I mean, all this stuff was supposed to be happy and all this stuff, but it just ended up being really bad for me. All these other people were pregnant. I just tried to avoid everybody. I didn't want nobody near me. I didn't want nobody to touch me. I didn't want nobody to talk to me. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to hear what was in me. I didn't want to talk about what was in me. I didn't want to talk about how I was feeling, what I was going through. Because I know a lot of people are like, oh, I'm here for you if you need me. And I'm just like, No, you're not. Like, don't say that unless you've actually been through what I'm going through. So it just really affected me in the worst possible way in the world.